Little House in the Big Woods by Laura Ingalls Wilder. Illustrated by Garth Williams. Chapter 3. The Long Rifle. Every evening before he began to tell stories, Pa made the bullets for his next day's hunting. Laura and Mary helped him. They brought the big, long-handled spoon and the box full of bits of lead and the bullet mold. Then, while he squatted on the hearth and made the bullets, they sat on each side of him and watched. First, he melted the bits of lead in the big spoon held in the coals. When the lead was melted, he poured it carefully from the spoon into the little hole in the bullet mold. He waited a minute, then he opened the mold and dropped out a bright new bullet into the hearth. The bullet was too hot to touch, but it shone so temptingly that sometimes Laura or Mary could not help touching it. Then they burned their fingers. But they did not say anything, because Pa told them never to touch a new bullet. If they burned their fingers, that was their own fault. They should have minded him. So they put their fingers in their mouths to cool them, and watched Pa make more bullets. A shining pile of them on the hearth before Pa stopped. He let them cool, then with his jackknife he trimmed off the little lumps left by the hole in the mold. Then he gathered up the tiny shavings of lead and saved them carefully to melt again the next time he made bullets. The finished bullets he put into his bullet pouch. This was a little bag which Ma had made beautifully of buckskin from a buck Pa had shot. After the bullets were made, Pa would take his gun down from the wall and clean it. Out in the snowy woods all day it might have gathered a little dampness, and the inside of the barrel was sure to be dirty from powder and smoke. So Pa would take the ramrod from its place under the gun barrel and fasten a piece of clean cloth on its end. He stood the butt of the gun in a pan on the hearth and poured boiling water from the tea kettle into the gun barrel. Then he quickly dropped the ramrod in and rubbed it up and down while the hot water blackened with powdered smoke spurted out through the little hole on which the cap was placed when the gun was loaded. Pa kept pouring in more water and washing the gun barrel with the cloth on the ramrod until the water ran out clear. Then the gun was clean. The water must always be boiling so that the heated steel would dry instantly. Then Pa put a clean greased rag on the ramrod, and while the gun barrel was still hot he greased it well on the inside. With another clean greased cloth he rubbed it all over outside until every little bit of it was oiled and sleek. After that he rubbed and polished the gun stock until the wood of it was bright and shining too. Now he was ready to load the gun again, and Laura and Mary must help him. Standing straight and tall and holding the long gun upright on its butt, while Laura and Mary stood on either side of him, Pa said, "You watch me now, and tell me if I make a mistake." So they watched very carefully, but he never made a mistake. Laura handed him the smooth, polished cow horn full of gunpowder. The top of the horn was a little metal cap. Pa filled this cap full of the gunpowder and poured the powder down the barrel of the gun. Then he shook the gun a little and tapped the barrel to be sure that all the powder was together in the bottom. "Where's my patch box?" he asked then, and Mary gave him the little tin box full of little pieces of greased cloth. Pa laid one of these bits of greasy cloth over the muzzle of the gun, then one of the shiny new bullets on it, and with the ramrod he pushed the bullet and the cloth down the gun barrel. Then he pounded them tightly against the powder. When he hit them with the ramrod bounced up in the gun barrel, and Pa caught it and thrust it down again. He did this for a long time. Next, he put the ramrod back in its place against the gun barrel. Then, taking a box of caps from his pocket, he raised the hammer of the gun and slipped one of the little bright caps over the hollow pin that was under the hammer. He let the hammer down slowly and carefully. If it came down quickly, bang! The gun would go off. Now the gun was loaded, and Pa laid it on its hooks over the door. When Pa came home, the gun always lay across the 2 wooden hooks above the door. Pa had whittled the hooks out of green sticks with his knife, and had driven their straight ends deep into the holes of the log. Ends curved upward and held the gun securely. The gun was always loaded, and always above the door so that Pa could get it quickly and easily any time he needed a gun. When Pa went into the big woods, he always made sure that the bullet pouch was full of bullets, and that the little tin patch box and the box of caps were with it in his pockets. The powder horn and a little small sharp hatchet hung at his belt as he carried the gun ready loaded on his shoulder. He always reloaded the gun as soon as he had fired it, for he said he did not want to meet trouble with an empty gun. Whenever he shot at a wild animal, he had to stop and load the gun, measure the powder, put it in, and shake it out, put in the patch and the bullet and pound them down, and then put a fresh cap under the hammer, before he could shoot again. When he shot at a bear or a panther, he must kill it with the first shot. A wounded bear or panther could still kill a man before he had time to load his gun again. But Laura and Mary were never afraid when Pa went alone in the big woods. They knew he could always kill bears and panthers with the first shot. After the bullets were made and the gun was loaded, came storytelling time. "Tell us about the voice in the woods," Laura begged him. Pa crinkled up his eyes at her. "Oh, no," he said. I don't want to hear about the time I was a naughty boy." "Oh, yes, we do," Laura and Mary said. So Pa began. The story of Pa and the Voice in the Woods. Part 2 coming soon.